Hey, are you feeling overwhelmed by the struggles you're facing in daily life? I'm here to tell you you're not alone. I've been struggling with chronic illness now for 10 years, and in today's video, I'm sharing 4 powerful habits that have helped me not just survive but truly thrive. I'm Lindsay. Let's turn those struggles into strength. In difficult times, it's really easy to start feeling like you're losing control. And one of the best ways to combat that is to establish routines. It can be morning, afternoon, evening, whatever suits yourself. But what you don't want to do is to make them too difficult because it's really hard to keep them up and you'll lose motivation really quickly and not want to continue. So start easy and add things as you're ready. You could go outside for a walk for X amount of minutes, do your vacuuming on a Wednesday, other house cleaning on other days of the week, exercise for 10 minutes after you wake up, or make it a thing that while the TV adverts are on in the evening, you spend 5 minutes tidying up the living room. If there's something in your routine that you absolutely hate doing, try setting it up in advance. One example of that is if you hate making lunches for work or working from home. If you want to make sandwiches for work, for example, instead of spending 15 minutes each evening doing that, try spending maybe 1 hour on a Sunday, maybe even less, making up sandwiches for the week. And the great thing about sandwiches is, if you didn't know, you can freeze them. So freeze them in sandwich bags, pop them in the freezer, and then in the morning when you're going out to work or you're working from home, just take one out in the morning, put it in your fridge or your lunchbox, your lunch bag, whatever it may be, and it'll be defrosted by the time lunchtime comes around. Another way you can break down big tasks is by habit stacking. It's only a thing I heard of maybe in the last year. And basically what habit stacking is as an example, if you are popping on the kettle for a cup of tea twice a day, use that maybe 5 minutes of time for the kettle boiling to do some squats, or maybe you could empty your dishwasher. But that's basically what it is. So every time you go and do that task, you know it's time to do this other task as well. And it works for longer lengths of time as well. As an example, if you're making dinner at night and you're boiling a pot of pasta or rice, take that time to maybe declutter a drawer in your kitchen, delete old emails or apps that you don't use on your phone, do a quick exercise routine, and I'll be talking a little bit more on that later. Or you could walk around the room and just note down 5 things that you see that need to be done and action those for later on in the week or month or whenever you have spare time. I found that doing things little by little, it just takes the enormity out of the task, especially if you can break them down bit by bit. It doesn't make it feel as such a huge task then. And on that last point, if you don't know how to do something or you're intimidated by what it is, maybe it's something you've never done before, such as a DIY, don't let that hold you back. There's plenty of advice online and plenty of YouTube videos to follow, particularly with the likes of DIY repairing how-tos. I've personally learned an awful lot from YouTube that I didn't know how to do before, such as plastering a wall, putting up a roller blind, and changing the wipers on my car. Actively learning about the thing you're afraid of or you're not sure about, it takes out the fear and the anxiety of it. And the more you learn, the less you worry, and the quicker you get it done, and the quicker you can move on to the next thing instead of doing what we all do at times and procrastinating for days, weeks, months, and sometimes even years. I'm guilty of it too. I don't know about you, but a lot of the times when I've put something off for ages and I eventually build up the strength and motivation to do it, and I do it, and I think that was a lot easier than I had it built up in my head. Why was I wasting so much time not doing this earlier? It used to happen to me all the time, and if I have a big task now, I just break it down into small tasks and set myself some achievable goals so I can hold myself accountable. And it makes it so much easier. And doing something new will give you a massive sense of achievement, and it will get it off your never-ending list of to-dos. What are some things you've learned how to do that you were once scared of doing? Let me know in the comments below, and while you're there, if you've found this video helpful so far, give it a big thumbs up. Another way of keeping your mind clear and clutter-free is to keep a calendar. It can be paper or digital, it doesn't really matter. Personally, I use paper just because I find it just easier to write down, and I have it in a dedicated space that I can look at it every day so I know what's coming up during the week. But use it to note down all your appointments, any meetings you have, any social events coming up. Having all that information in one dedicated space is really helpful, and it stops that awful feeling of, oh, I think I have something coming up, but I'm not sure what it is. Or, you have a doctor's appointment, for example, and you have to then waste time ringing around trying to find out where it is, what time it's at. Or you have the embarrassment of forgetting altogether and end up getting a fine or struck off the list, which is an absolute nightmare. As well as a calendar, a house journal or notebook can come in very, very handy. And you can also use it in an app form. That's what I personally use. And basically, that's for you to note down when things need done, but they're not necessarily things that happen all the time, such as booking your boiler in for a service, getting your car service done or maintained, when your insurance or internet contract is ending, so you know when to look up on comparison sites, or even little things like cleaning out your vacuum filters. If you do those two things, I promise it will greatly reduce your anxiety, because there's no surprises, or very, very few surprises anyway, and you know exactly what's coming up in your day, week, month, so you know exactly where you are and what you need to do. Another way to take back control in difficult times is to take control of your body and exercise regularly. Personally, I always hated sport or exercise, couldn't even fathom getting into it. But I noticed a real attitude shift for myself this January when I started off slow and just started exercising a little bit every day. And now I can't believe how much I actually enjoy it and, dare I say, love it. Now, I don't necessarily love it when I'm doing it, but after I finished, I have that sense of achievement that I've done something that is going to really benefit me in the future. And that just feels fantastic. I used a habit tracking app called Forfeit to try and get into exercises, because I needed something to hold me accountable. Otherwise, I knew I wasn't going to do it. And they provided me with a coach just at the start, just to be able to set up my habits to something that was going to work for me, but was going to push myself a little bit too. And I remember him saying to me, and bear in mind, this was at the start of the year in January that I started. He said to me, imagine, you'll do this every day and think of how you'll feel this time next year. And I remember thinking to myself, next year, like, there's no way I'm going to carry this throughout a whole year. There's no chance. But now we're in September and there's only 3 months to go until the end of the year. And I can't believe that I've kept it up. Now, I have dipped a wee bit in and out of it, but I've always been able to get into it again. And I have that motivation now to do so, because I can feel the difference in my body. But my advice would be is just to start slow and work your way up gradually. I find the hardest part is just starting. And I don't mean starting when I did at the start of January. I mean starting every day to get up and start exercising. That is the hardest bit. Once you're in it and you do get the motivation to keep going. It's just that starting. But even if you start and you can't finish, that's okay. At least you've got up and you've done a little bit. But once you start, you might surprise yourself. I know I did, with just how much you can do. One really easy way I find of starting anything, not just exercise, is to get your phone and go to your timer and just set a timer for 5 minutes. And for me, that's just enough to get me up and started. And I often find that when the 5 minutes is up, I can keep going, because I'm already doing it. I'm already in the way of doing it. And I'm not having to go through that pain of starting it again. The great thing about regular exercise is you get to know your body more. And for those of us that live with chronic illnesses and chronic pain like myself, it can be really difficult to imagine that, because you feel like you know your pain intimately, because you do. But once you start exercising regularly, you're going to feel what's right and what's not right. You're going to feel where your pain points are, where you need to work on, and what doesn't feel right that you need to speak to your doctor about. For example, I've started going to physio with my local hospital. And before I started doing any exercises or anything like that, she had to do some measurements on me. So I had to, turn my neck and reach down side to side. And before I reached down side to side, I said to her, I have trouble with this on one side. One side, my hip feels sticky. And she says, yes, I can see that by your measurements. So it was validation to me that I was right about how I was feeling. But if I hadn't noticed that, I wouldn't have said that to her. And that's something we're now working on together, to sort of loosen that area up a little bit. Exercise is hard to get into. I totally understand. It took me years of trying different things to properly get into it. But one thing I would say is don't think of exercise as, oh, this is something I have to do. Think of it as a gift to your future self, because by exercising regularly, you're going to have less pain in the future, but you're going to have more movement, more balance, and more strength. And if you live with any sort of illness or get an illness in the future, it's really going to help you manage your life day to day, even though life's going to get a little bit more difficult. Once you do manage to exercise regularly, and what I'm doing now is tailor your exercise to meet your goals. For me, my current exercise goal is to strengthen my bones because I have a very low bone density due to years of having to use steroids for my conditions. But for you, it might be losing weight, getting better balance, lessening the pain in your back and knees, or it could simply be, getting off the sofa or out of bed and walking to the door and back. There's no judgment here. Everyone has their own difficulties and struggles when it comes to health. So have a look online and on YouTube for specific exercises and advice to your goal and any conditions that you have. While I was visiting my physio this week, I actually discovered a new website and it's called Movement Medicine, and it has lots of catered exercises and apps and local groups for adults, young adults, and children. And it gives lots of pointers for exercises and things you can do, especially in your local area as well. It caters to all types of illnesses and issues. And I've only had a quick look at it so far, and it's a brilliant website. It's incredible. I really encourage you to have a look. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but I think it'll really help you. So I'll put the link to their website down in the description below. On their website, I also found a couple of their posters that they use for advertising, and I thought they were really good. So I'm going to show you them now, just for a moment. And maybe that will inspire you to get started on your exercise journey and fit it into your routine. Tell me, what are your exercise goals? And if you don't have one at the moment, why don't you have a think about it and post it down in the comments below? It could be the first step for holding yourself accountable for your health. I really enjoyed making this video for you, and I hope you enjoyed watching it too. If you did, give it a like and subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.